Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Northern Kentucky Spotlight Podcast presented by CBG. I'm your host, Sarah Brookbank. Today on the podcast, we are joined by Moira, Weir, and Chuck Session of United Way of Greater Cincinnati. They talk about the year ahead and what economic conditions are impacting the workforce in Greater Cincinnati. On NKY at Work, Nancy Spidey chats with Rob Kuhnhein of MPHR about recent changes to the HR landscape. Thank you to our podcast sponsors, CBG, our title sponsor, C-Crew Consulting, our digital sponsor, and our episode sponsor, Schneller-Knockelman. We have an exciting NKYP event happening in early February that you won't want to miss out on. Join Northern Kentucky Young Professionals for Lunchtime Leader Chat on February 8th, featuring Michelle Tibbs, co-owner of Grainwell. Michelle will discuss her career journey and share insights into the success of her company, as well as give advice to NKYPs looking to advance in their careers. You can register for that at nkychamber.com/events or learn more on NKYP's social media pages. They are on Facebook and they are on LinkedIn. Now, let's go meet our members of the week, hear from our sponsors, and Nancy and I will be back with this week's guests.
Why would you travel to England?
For football.
To go or not to go?
That is an easy question.
To visit the land of Shakespeare.
To take in all the sights.
Authentic fish and chips.
To experience arts and culture.
2 words, British Open.
To visit my family.
Same reason I go anywhere. For a pint of beer. To start my trip through Europe.
Whatever your reason, there's no better time than now.
Ranking on Google Search and Maps is easy to understand, but hard to do. It requires constant effort and attention, uploading new photos, responding to Google reviews, writing weekly posts, and checking suggested updates. Google listing optimization takes experience and time, and there are no shortcuts. C-Crew gives your Google My Business account the steady, consistent attention it needs to be effective, optimizing, updating, and expanding critical content every single week. From local retail stores to large regional networks, C-Crew generates content, establishes benchmarks, and creates dramatic, measurable increases in engagement. So what can C-Crew do for your business? More calls, more clicks, more clients.
Congratulations to our members of the week. You can learn more about these businesses by following the Northern Kentucky Chamber on social media, where we will highlight one of these businesses each day. Now, let's meet our members of the week. Living Magazines is a community publication in Greater Cincinnati dedicated to telling positive stories since 1977. Capital Risk Group specializes in the exclusive management of insurance claims for policyholders. Discover the magic of lavender at Bear Farm in Verona. They offer you pick lavender gathering, wreath-making classes, tea parties, meditation, and private events. The Vehicle Motor Division of Bosch Mobility manufactures electronic power steering and steering columns for a variety of vehicle manufacturers. Boot Medical, a pharmaceutical wholesaler based in Cincinnati, takes pride in their commitment to delivering excellence in the healthcare industry. Hi, everyone. Today on the podcast, we are joined by our friends at United Way, Greater Cincinnati. We are joined by Moira Weir, who is the president and CEO, and Chuck Sessions, who you are the executive in residence, I hear.
Yes.
Yes. Well, welcome, guys, to the podcast. We are so excited to have you. To kick us off, a lot of people know about United Way, but tell us about what you guys are doing right now and what 2024 is looking like for you all.
So I'll start, and then Chuck can fill in any gaps for me. But first of all, thanks for having us. We're really excited. 2024 is going to be another exciting year. We really are focused in at the United Way. We've been laser focused on economic well-being for everybody in the region. Mm-hmm. So we really want to think about how are we changing conditions today, but also for future generations. And so what are we doing to address some of the barriers that really hold families back from both a systemic issue, but also just the day-to-day. So we always say it's really important for people to know where they're going to sleep tonight, where they're going to eat, but really what's even more important is how are we helping them get jobs or improve their income or have stable housing. And I would say the 3 areas that we have really focused in on specifically at the United Way is going to be around educational success. So making sure anybody from 0 to 25, and I say 25 because a lot of kids, we want them to graduate from high school, but then we also want them to think about aspirationally what's out there beyond that. Financial stability, actually it's economic well-being, but really not only having stability, but mobility. And the last thing is housing. how do we make sure people have stability in housing, but also potential for home ownership.
Right. It's a lot of pieces. Chuck, anything to add for that?
I would just think that from my perspective, early childhood development, so education to what Moira spoke to earlier, and I think about it this way, children from K through third grade learn how to read. And from third grade beyond, it's reading to learn and to comprehend. So that basic foundation early on is so critically important to not just the elementary, junior high, and high school, but then what they do career-wise afterwards. So from a workforce development, those two tie hand in glove, and a lot of folks don't really connect those dots, but it's critically important.
Yeah, I think that United Way has so many different things that they're doing. You guys just touched on a dozen things that we at the Chamber think about every day. How are you guys strategizing? How are you guys working in the community to make these changes happen?
So it's really through our partnerships, like our partnership with you, but it's really like how do we engage community in those conversations, and also how do we use data to help, activate it. So I like to say we do three things. We take action, meaning when we see a problem or an issue, we think how can we help solve it. So we do some of our own programming, and then we also bring our partners in to say how can we collectively do this. We also do a lot of work on advocacy. I mean, if you want to see true change happening, it's how are you changing policies and conditions? Because when you make a change in policy, that's really the ripple effect of actually seeing system change. And the last thing we get to do is we get to invest the generous dollars that we have in organizations that are representative of community. And so we've been really conscious of that to make sure that it's representative of those that we serve, and there's diversity in that. But also we get to invest in them, and we get to collaborate with them and think about a true partnership, and how we all coming to the table, rolling up our sleeves and thinking collectively, what can we do to really change the conditions in our community, not only for today, but for future generations.
Yeah, and about the region that you guys cover, touch on that a little bit, because I think some people would be surprised at how big of a geographical area you guys cover.
Sure. So for Northern Kentucky, it's Grant, Boone, Campbell, and Kenton counties. So those 4 counties. And to what Moira mentioned with respect to collaboration, one of the things that I try to do is engage with all of our key stakeholders in those 4 counties and understand what their top 3 priorities are. Once I understand their top 3 priorities, then I can overlay that with the key areas of focus for United Way and find that sweet spot, that intersect where we can help them be successful, help our families and communities be successful. And that approach then allows us to have a deeper impact and more value add to the greater Northern Kentucky community that we serve.
Yeah, that's really great. And you guys also cover Ohio. So
we're in Ohio. We're 9 counties in total, but 4 in Northern Kentucky and the rest in Hamilton and Claremont.
Yeah.
And Dearborn. Yeah.
It's a big area. And so when you, and Butler, all the way up, all the way down, left and right as well. So one of the things that you guys are also doing, when you guys are out in the community or you're talking to these community leaders, one of the things is obviously people's home lives and what the community is doing obviously impacts the workforce. You guys had kind of mentioned that you guys are looking from early childhood all the way through life. But what are you guys seeing in that space, and how are current conditions impacting workforces around Greater Cincinnati?
Well, I mean, I think, Chuck alluded to this already, but really we know if children are ready for kindergarten, by the time they hit 3rd grade, they're going to be to read. And then we know if they hit those milestones, the chances of them by 8th grade hitting those milestones even increase. So the data supports that. So I think part of it is just educating community. And when I say community, it's families. I think families have lost the mental model about why is it important for your child to be ready for kindergarten, because for the last 3 years, we've been shut down in various places where there wasn't affordable childcare. We know the stress of families. I think the data suggests that if you're financially unstable, you spend 26% of your day thinking about that and stressed out. So really, how do we educate our community around that's trauma, those stress factors? So really thinking about how important it is so that children have access to quality childcare, they get into school, they're ready. And then also, making sure that youth feel that there's hopefulness and opportunity, because we hear that a lot. When I was a child welfare worker going into homes, you see 3 generations of poverty, and what's going to be different for me? And so how do you give them that hope and aspiration? But I also think it's working with the employers to say, how can we collectively come together to make sure that as you engage your entry-level workforce or whatever it is, and how do we help support them to be successful? So I think it's a multi-pronged approach. It's working with the business community, the chamber, like lots of people like that. How do we bring all these collective minds, various stakeholders together? I always call it the fabric of our community, and challenge us to say, how are we really thinking about conditions, not only today, but for the future?
Mm-hmm. Anything to add on that one?
I would just agree that we're attacking issues that impact all of us, and collectively, we can come with solutions to those challenges that, again, deepen the value, impact, and move the needle so that everyone can thrive. That's critically important.
Yeah, I would agree. One of the things I thought was really interesting, you mentioned employers, and obviously the podcast is kind of geared towards this business community here in Greater Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. When you're talking to employers in the region, what are some things that you want them to be mindful of when they're approaching their workforce, or maybe they kind of notice that somebody's struggling, or if they're not noticing, what are some things that they should be mindful of?
So, I mean, I think it's the one thing you hear about employers, not only here, but across the country, is having people focused at work, and showing up. And so oftentimes when you're looking at some of the more entry-level positions, there's lots of barriers for families. So if they have one car and that something happens to that car and it breaks down, that's going to be a challenge for that family. So maybe it's like, how do we build in an infrastructure with employers to help give supports for a family, recognizing they have to run a business? I mean, we want to support that, but having some thoughts around, like, if somebody has potential childcare issues or housing issues. I mean, we know that when someone is evicted, kids don't go to school, parents don't go to work. So stability in housing is really critical. So what can we do to have some forward thinking about the workforce that we're engaging right now, and how can we give supports that really help them be successful?
Earlier this year, actually last year, we went to a workforce development summit at CBG, and there were 16 different employers there talking about some of the challenges with respect to the workforce. Our attendance there was really to help make folks aware of our partner agencies, the services that they provide to support people with some of those wraparound services, events, if you will, so that workforce attendance, availability, et cetera, is not as stressful and challenging as it otherwise might not be without those partner agencies. And so some of that is just making people aware of what's available to them to help folks with a hand up. So that's a lot of fun, and it was interesting to see people kind of light up like, oh, I wasn't aware that was available. We can do this. And so I have a couple of situations where we can refer them, and I think that's important. I think the other thing that I really got excited about when I came to United Way was the work that their 211 workforce supports and their care coordinators taking the time, showing empathy, and helping lead, guide, and direct those family members to where they can get help, again, so that they can be self-sufficient and have economic sustainability and vitality.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Like, employers, have your employees call 211, because to Chuck's point, we have closed loop referral service in place. We're also building out a whole, community information exchange. So there'll be lots of data, lots of opportunity, and lots of resources. So how do we help connect your employees to the resources in the community?
Yeah, and so for people that don't know about the 211 program, just kind of explain it a little bit, kind of an overview for people who are probably hearing about this for maybe the first or second time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gem in our community, I think, and we really built it out, particularly when, during COVID, when we were seen as a one true source of data, a one true source of information. Like, hospitals asked us to get information out about, COVID vaccines. We were helping seniors get access to food, but it really is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call and most likely talk to a live person. If for some reason everybody's on another call, we'll call you right back. And it's really getting information by trained social workers about what are your needs, taking down information, and then helping them make connections. And then we're really trying to build that out to be not only just an information referral, but making sure, did they get what they needed and what else can we help with? So we're building that out more this year. And then bringing in lots of different organizations to provide information that they can then use as a network. And then we're sharing lots of data about what are the things that we're seeing the data is telling us in the community, like where are the gaps, and then how do we create services or opportunities to fill those gaps.
Yeah, that's so important to have in the community. I love how often I hear, especially when I'm working with other nonprofit organizations that will come on the podcast, and hearing about the collaboration that exists and building that community and making sure we're lifting the entire community up. I think it's so great. It's one of my favorite things about the greater Cincinnati area. I feel like so many organizations are really working hard together. On that note, kind of touch on some of the things that you're doing in Northern Kentucky and the organizations you're working with.
So, I mean, and Chuck couldn't speak more specifically. I would just say to your point, I think one thing that's really important, and I love what you just said, is that not one individual organization or person can do this work alone. And it really takes all of us coming together, whether it's nonprofit sector, business leaders, civic leaders, legislators, like really thinking about to solve this problem. So, I mean, Chuck's been really working closely with folks in Northern Kentucky.
Sure. So I would say organizations like the Brighton Center, EC Learn, the Northern Kentucky Community Action Commission, the Opportunity House, Life Learning Center, all of those organizations. Yes. But the passion and the commitment from those Northern Kentucky organizations for the betterment of everyone here. And again, the same for the other side of the river in Ohio. I've never been around a group that is collectively more compassionate, shows more empathy, and has a laser focus on raising the tide for everyone. So for me, it's really not work. It's a labor of love, being able to collaborate with all those partner agencies and organizations, helping families and communities that we both serve. And there's no more fun. I think about in one of my previous roles, I had customers, and customers was a critical focus, customers and communities. And the not-for-profit work that we do today is really families and communities. And that intersect there and the opportunity to make a positive difference and move the needle for the next generation is a lot of fun. And while challenging, it's very, very rewarding to see the end result.
Yeah, and it's so important that we have organizations that are working together to do this type of work. One of the things I also want to touch on, so for organizations who aren't already involved, or for individuals in the community that want to get involved, how can people help United Way? How can they contribute? How can they help collaborate?
So, I mean, we welcome any partnership. I mean, we're always looking for partners. Like, none of us can do this work alone. And even if you maybe aren't we don't have a relationship with you through financial investments, it doesn't mean we can't work with you through policy or advocacy. So I think, anything, get in touch with Chuck, get in touch with somebody, somebody else at United Way, and just say that you're interested, and we're happy to plug you in. We have lots of different volunteer opportunities. We have a policy council, we have an impact council, and we have lots of different things happening. So
to reiterate what Moira said, one of the things for Northern Kentucky in 2024 that I'm really excited about is the reestablishment of our Community Action Council, if you will. And that will have folks representing all aspects of the community, not just business, with a perspective and their experience on what we can do to make a positive difference. And then collectively, how do we address each of those issues and work to make a positive difference? So that's one way. I think the other thing that I really enjoyed is the Northern Kentucky Chamber, our partnership and reestablishment with them as well. They've done a great job in sharing the United Way story with other business and industry in the community so that together we can make a difference, and that's a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, well, we are so happy to have you guys on the podcast and as a member working in our community. Before I let you guys go, is there anything else you would like to share with our audience today?
I think the only thing I'd like to share, and I always want to make sure we talk about this, is everything we do really is community focused. So I say that to say we really have spent a lot of time talking to those that are most affected by the systems that aren't working, and recognizing that voice is so important. And then how do we bring that and elevate that up so others can hear that, and then hopefully craft solutions and opportunities, again, including data and all the other stakeholders, but really making community voice really centered to what we're trying to do, because they know what they need more than anybody else. And sometimes we forget that.
Yeah, I think that is really important. I know I used to work at the Inquirer. I know the Inquirer did the wish list stories, and hearing from those people in the community, and like you said, really listening to the actual community on what they need is so important.
Yeah. I would just like to say thank you. Thank you to the Northern Kentucky community, the partner agencies, for the families and the communities that we have the privilege and opportunity to serve. And we look forward to a healthy and prosperous 2024.
Yeah, well, that is great. Well, thank you both so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
For having us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Nancy Spivey, Vice President of Talent Strategies for the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. On today's NKY at Work segment, we are talking to MPHR, and I have Rob, don't let me butcher this, Kuhnhein with me.
Perfect.
Rob, very nice to meet you. Tell me a little bit about MPHR.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Nice to meet you as well, Nancy. MPHR is an HCM company that is based in just north of in Beverly, Massachusetts, and we are a reseller of iSolve software and make sure that you're in compliance with. We have HR services, we have payroll services, time, benefits. Make sure that you as an organization are in compliance with all regulations, and make sure that you're treating and treating your employees correctly.
Right. And as somebody, I deal with HR on a daily basis in my role, and I just know there's been so many changes and so much evolving, not only legislatively, but also in processes, and now the new AI technology coming into the fold. And so you at MPHR, you're kind of a full service provider of services, correct?
Absolutely. HCM stands for Human Capital Management, kind of the catchphrase for everything that's involved in running a business and taking care of your employees, from talent management, so finding people to hire, to onboarding them, to paying them correctly, to making sure their benefits are in line, and making sure, I mentioned before, time, if you have hourly employees or whatnot, they can punch and make sure that their time is accounted for. And we have a really robust tax team that makes sure your taxes are in order and that you're paying the right municipalities and the right tax agencies to make sure you're up to date on all those things.
Great. And let's talk a little bit about trends that are happening and that we're seeing in our market and in the national market. Yeah. So first of all, let's talk about compensation. What are some new things on the horizon, new things that have happened in 2023?
Yeah, I'll reference one of our latest blog posts. It's the title of it is 2023's HR Revolution, a seismic shift in the workplace landscape. The first thing is minimum wage. California instituted a $15 minimum wage, which has kind of caused HR professionals to rethink a lot of things, from the top to the bottom, especially at, in low wage sectors and low wage industries, fast food and whatnot. It really has changed a lot of things. Pay equity, the transparency of pay equity has transitioned to become a really significant public debate these days. The development of robust data-driven analytics has really come to the forefront to ensure that equity is forefront in a lot of organizations, and to make sure they're treating their people right.
And we're hosting an event in March, our Total Talent Transformation, which is our annual symposium event, and we're hearing the trends around this almost customized way of looking at each person in your company. Yeah. So what you might need, as far as benefits or work from home situation or salary, and is very different from what I might need, from what others might need.
Absolutely.
So do you feel like that's kind of a trend that's not going to go away? Do you feel like that's kind of on the horizon? Or
I don't know how, I've been in discussions where organizations are looking at adding things like pet benefits. I'm not sure how, once you've offered those things, you put that back in the box, right? You take it back away from them. So I think we're going down this road, and we'll continue to go down this road, so that people feel like they're valued and they can live like they're valued.
Yeah, and that kind of all plays into workers' rights and what are the rights of people, and what's fair and equitable. And are you seeing from your clients, more of a trend toward wanting to make sure that we're doing things accurately and adequately?
Absolutely. I mean, DE&I is, it's not just a buzzword anymore. I think, 2-3 years ago, it was one of those things that was, if you were doing it, you were special. Nowadays, if you're not doing it, you're special on the other side of it. And I think making sure that people feel included, feel valued, no matter who they are, what they do, is really important for almost all industries these days. I think you have to have it to compete. And talking to our clients, weekly, I hear it all the time. They're always looking for ways to make their employees feel part of a team, part of the overall organization, not only overall organizational goal, but part of, valued as an individual.
Yeah. Don't you find it refreshing to know that employees now can come and say, hey, I really like working here, but I need X as well. And to have, instead of just the door shut, like we can't offer that to everybody, to have the ability to kind of look around at your whole package and say, what can we do here?
Absolutely. So, we can get pretty, pretty creative when it comes to some of those one-off sort of benefit situations that they offer. There are even things where an employee can go out and find their own benefits and put together their own benefit or their own benefit package and come back and the company might say, I'm gonna pay you $500, I'm gonna reimburse you $500 a month. If you want to pay $750 for that top tier program that involves all these other things that we don't offer, you can go do that. Yeah. So it just makes it affordable and it makes it attainable for any employee now.
So thinking about all of my friends in HR, what do you see as challenges and opportunities, and how does HR look different today than it did maybe 5 years ago?
It's a really good question. I think, a lot of times, I think about Moneyball, about baseball, and how when baseball started looking at analytics to really figure out that one player was better than another, and it seemed kind of cold. It seemed like, you're just boiling people down to numbers. But when it comes to, when you're really talking about analytics like this, it allows you to figure out, what portion of your organization is, or people of color, what portion of your organization is, are veterans. And you can focus on going out and ensuring that there's equity within your organization and equality. And you do that through numbers. And I think that's been a huge shift just in the past, 3 to 5 years, that HR departments are using math. Who thought
right.
Who thought it
it's
would
not
happen?
just about
It's
human,
not just about finance.
human capital, right?
That's right. It's not finance aren't the only ones using math anymore.
Yeah, and all of us with psychology and degrees, we're having to bend a little bit and learn, data analysis and.
Well, I think the combination of using both of those things are extremely powerful. To be able to put that kind of psychology and the thought to those numbers and what they really mean, I think is what makes it all come together and all really powerful for DE&I.
I really appreciate your perspective on that, because I know in your realm, you're dealing with all sizes of employers, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. 2 employees all the way up to 8 or 10,000.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add? Anything I've forgotten to ask?
Oh, I'll just say that, I've been an MP for about 1.5 years, and just the type of service and HR leadership that we can provide is pretty significant, and just wanted to give a quick shout out to MP and my leaders and the leadership at MP.
Yeah, well, we love having you in the community. I know it's been a pleasure in the last year or so to get to know MP, and thank you so much for coming in, and thanks for being a member.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chris Knockelman, owner of Schneller Knockelman Plumbing, Heating, and Air. As we kick off 2024, I want to let you know about a major giveaway of a free system, a complete furnace and air conditioning system for your home. All you have to do is go online at skpha/2024 giveaway, and you can register, no purchase necessary, to win this complete system for your family. If you're not interested because your system is too young, please share this with your friends and neighbors so that they have an opportunity to win also. And if you're not in the market for a new furnace and air conditioning system, make sure you call us and schedule your furnace tune-up here for the winter. And just remember, call Schneller Knockelman, your family-owned company. Trust us, we're going to be there for you.
Thank you all so much for tuning into this week's episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about United Way of Greater Cincinnati, as well as MPHR. Thank you to our podcast sponsors, CVG, Seeker Consulting, and Schneller Knockelman. And don't forget to register for NKYP's Lunchtime Leader Chat happening on February 8th. Like I said, you can register for that now at nkychamber.com/events or learn more on NKYP's social media pages. Finally, if you are a member who would like to be featured on the podcast, or if you're someone who is interested in joining the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, please reach out to Lynn Ablin. And if you're someone who is interested in sharing your workforce strategies and resources on NKY at Work, please reach out to Nancy Spivey. You can find their contact information on the screen in front of you if you are one of our viewers, and our listeners can visit our staff directory at nkychamber.com. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll talk to you guys next week.